With all the craziness in this world, we are here to have open and honest conversations to help navigate our thoughts.
Sometimes we are right and sometimes we're wrong. But in the end, if we aren't learning, we aren't living.
This is Philip.
And this is Wes.
And we are
Two Bottles Deep. Sweet sound.
Hello, Wes.
Hey, Philip Hedrick.
How are you, babe?
God, I'm good, buddy.
Good.
How are you?
I'm fantastic. I'm not sure you're good. I feel like you got something you need to get off your chest.
So our sound last week, we got some feedback that, we're trying, right?
Yeah, I listened back. It's a little embarrassing. And this is all our fault. This is absolutely no one's fault but Wes and I. We've tried multiple things to get the sound right. And we're not the smartest when it comes to combining audio and video.
Yeah, so new season. We were not in a cave.
Yeah.
We were here in the studio. Yeah. And beautiful East Nashville.
But we do appreciate you guys hanging in with us. I appreciate the feedback. Got one last night from Elena. She was like, can I just be honest with you about something? I'm like, of course. She's like, your sound's awful. I was like, oh, well, don't sugarcoat it. So we understand. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for hanging in. And it was a rough week. Oh. I'm just going to start off right now.
Okay, let me buckle up.
Rant number one.
Okay.
You know I'm loved by many, right?
8.
Or many is more than 2, less than 12.
Yeah.
Florida man, no joke. Florida man moves into Moa's building.
Okay.
Carrying AK something, 97, 42, what I don't know. Guns,
you mean he walks in carrying it on his shoulder?
Strapped on his mofo back. Shotgun in the other hand. You're at one of the most exclusive buildings in Nashville, Tennessee. Florida man, and I'm not saying, he moved from Florida, so I can say that. Political affiliation, unknown, but assumable. I have a right to do this. So meanwhile, residents are flipping out because not 3 weeks ago, 3 children and 3 adults were slaughtered with the similar gun he had on his back, proudly displaying, which could have been brought in a case and whatnot. So this world has gone nuts.
So did he get arrested?
Did not get arrested. I'm playing back video footage, getting it to our lawyer. Here's my thing. Do you approach a person? Do you not? My immediate approach to get him in the office, I'll be like, Jerry is a fellow gun owner. I get it. I want to play his part because I don't want shot. 50-50. He's going to be really upset because he has a right to carry militia arms. Yeah. It should be a musket, right? Second Amendment, 1600, whenever that was. They had like one type of gun. That's what they should have. But then the other one's like, hey, I just moved in. Because literally on the cameras, I'm watching footage all day. He's carrying in vacuum cleaners and, he's just moving in. Yeah. So he's either a cool dude or it's gonna be yay or nay. What is it going to be? So I sent it to the law team as I don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, I don't know if I would approach or not. Maybe with a bullhorn, like from across the lobby. Sir, please put down your assault rifle.
He had an assault rifle. That's it. And that's what AR stands for, right?
Yeah.
And it was like...
Or is it automatic?
Automatic.
We learned that last season.
We did, and I forgot. Clive, if you could call us back.
Clive, send us a message. We've already forgotten what you taught us. Well, I'm sorry that happened, but that sounds scary.
It was in with the school shooting. I mean, the Covenant school shooting was blocks from my place. I watched school buses go by carrying children to their families.
Yeah.
And then the families are like, is my child on this bus? Like, we watched that unfold. And we were on lockdown, and it's a little bit, I don't know if he hasn't watched the news or if he just is not sensitive enough to a community that just went through, like the neighborhood just went through that, let alone our country went through that. So yeah, it was one of those things where you're like, I just don't want to, I have 500 people living in my building, and it's like, how do you
keep everybody happy?
Yeah, you can. Then someone calls down like, this is unacceptable. But in Tennessee, you can carry. Right? But it's got to be concealed, I believe.
I thought we had open carry here.
Oh, do we? No, Texas does.
That wouldn't surprise me. Shoot.
But when you live in a building, that's not your building. You're renting there. So the clause, and for people that are on a lease, the clause is everything has to be concealed. No matter what the law, that's private property. So a little bit of tidbit. I had to look that up. I didn't know what our lease said about that, because I've never encountered someone so degenerative that would do that, desensitized.
Yeah.
So
Well, sorry that happened.
thank you. That just is just emotionally draining at a certain point, you know. How was your week?
Much better than that, apparently. No one pulled a gun on me. No, it was a good week. Went to a new distillery. Well, it's not new. They've got a new tasting room, the Short Mountain Distillery out in Cannon County on the Cumberland Plateau. It's the cutest little place. This is where they made moonshine. It's by a little river, and you can take this great little tour. But we paid extra for this cocktail class, like how to make cocktails. I was so excited because I, love new cocktails.
Yeah.
And literally all it was me watching this gay dude just make 3 drinks in front of us. It was like a little vodka, a little lemonade, and put the blueberry in it, and there's your first one. And then we're going to do, I was like, it was a 4-minute class for $25. So I spent the next 30 minutes drinking those 3 cocktails. But if you're ever looking for a good distillery, this is a great tour.
Okay. So you're in Cannon County.
Cannon County, it's about an hour and 20 minutes from Nashville.
Sounds beautiful.
It's absolutely beautiful. They do moonshine and bourbon. But the tour guide is like, he's so smart. I feel like I could make bourbon right now. Like I learned so much in a 1.5 hour period. So.
And are you a bourbon drinker?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if they always ask me what kind I want, and I only know one kind. There's like 700 kinds. So I probably should do better about, not just memorizing one, but I enjoy
the dark one.
I enjoy putting a little bourbon over a big ice cube and sitting on my couch and pretending I have money.
Do you have the round, like that round ice ball thing? Oh, that's fun. You could do the squares and whatnot. Let's go back to your story.
Oh, okay.
There was a gay person up there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gays are everywhere.
That was my question. Was like, what do you do on Friday night?
He was like,
show people cocktails. Work here. So
how was he? Nice?
Yeah.
Was there a connection?
He was super. Oh, no, we weren't dating. Like, just because he's gay doesn't mean no.
Did you know him? Did you know Jerry?
No, didn't know him. It was fine. He was well versed. I just expected like to go deep into like how the cocktail's made. We get to make it with them. We're pouring the stuff. We were just kind of sitting in chairs. And I was eating a Reuben. But anyway, Short Mountain Distillery, check it out.
Well, good for that trip. Wasn't in the notes. Don't know what to say.
Good for that trip.
Well, I know you went with your good friends, and I saw the pictures, and I don't know if that was on your story, so if people can go to Philip Hedrick on Instagram and see you driving the truck.
Oh, yeah. I was delivering moonshine to all the locals.
It was hilarious. You are the best to follow on the old IG and Facebook and Twitter and whatever.
Can we talk about the crazy controversy?
Okay. You trying to get me riled up now.
Well, all right. So I'm assuming everybody that hears this has heard this controversy with Dylan Mulvaney. She's the young trans girl who Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch decided to feature on a beer can. And then all hell broke loose. We had celebrities having absolute meltdowns on TikTok and Twitter.
Their platform.
Kid Rock was my favorite. First of all, he looks 114. He looks really old to me, but I don't know. Maybe he is.
Rough life. Look at his lifestyle.
And he's shooting at the beer cans to show us that he's doesn't appreciate this and it's not right. Travis Tritt.
Mullet Man from the 1990s.
I didn't even know he was still touring, but he was like, I'm not going to let any of this on my tour at all.
Yeah, in his rider. Yeah. So I'm like, they're going to miss out on about a case a weekend. Yeah. Got it, buddy. Yeah. Yep, that's going to take the old Anheuser-Busch family down.
Yeah. I'm sure they did lose some money, but what's your thought on this? Why did people get so upset?
I think, I think there's a little bit of PR in there. I think with those two individuals, I didn't see a whole lot of other controversy. With Travis Tritt, he is known in 2014 or 15, somewhere in there, he was just going off on Brantley Gilbert about not respecting him on the tour. Now, Travis was opening for Brantley, and Brantley gave him like 8 foot of the stage because they have their stuff already set up behind them. They throw up a terry cloth. Reba does it with her team. I mean, the new act comes out, they set up their little band, and then they do it. Well, he was opening for Brantley. And then all of a sudden, instead of going to Brantley or having his management, and like Brantley had control over that, maybe not, he went to Twitter. So I think he's a drama queen. I think he wants attention. And he is just, Travis Tritt is known for being an asshole. And, you know, we have friends. We've had people in our studio that are close to both of these guys. And that's why I posted on Instagram. I really want to know if Kid Rock is this homophobic. He was very close with Loretta Lynn, like very close. He's been pictured partying with drag queens. He is around so many accepting people who love our community. Loretta was one of them. She had a lot of gays in her whole empire. And he's pictured with these people. So is this just a ploy right now? Is he really? And I didn't get feedback from the people I wanted. I've heard both. Yeah, he's really an awesome guy. This may be a stunt. I've heard that he's not a nice person. I don't know. I don't know him. I wish he would come in and talk. And I don't know. That's kind of my stance on it.
You know, I think part of it is, I think you can be okay with like gay people and drag queens, and then like the trans bit, like I think people are feeling like it's being pushed too quickly. That's some of the responses I'm getting. Like, I'm okay with your community, but like settle down, quit pushing it in our face, you know. And I'm not saying I understand how you can get to that level, maybe, but I think that's probably what it is. Sure, he's probably got some gay friends and he's hung out with drag queens, but there's a moment where he's like, I can't tolerate this. I think it's a bit over dramatic, but I mean, there's things that I've watched of Dylan's that are a little cringe, but. People have watched my videos, I'm sure, and have been like, wow, Philip. Well, I posted me in a wig last weekend, and I got a lot of like, wow, worst video ever. I'm like, yeah, I know. It was kind of the point of it, being funny.
Well, and when does it stop, too? I mean, they may be accepting of our community, to your point. They may be accepting, and they are just, okay, this is pushing our face. This is pushing our face. But I think to comment about that, this is one beer can.
Yeah,
right?
It's not being sold.
That went to Mr. Dylan Mulvaney.
Miss
Dylan.
Yeah, we need to respect
trans female. Trans woman. Okay, yes. So male to female. Okay. Dylan threw me there. But yeah, I mean, it's literally one can that went to one person. It's not for sale. And if it was, it still should be no big deal. I don't go to Hooters. But I'm not boycotting Hooters.
Yeah.
I'm not making a big deal. When I go to the Titan Stadium and the cheerleaders have very little on and they're gyrating in front of children and in front of the fans, I don't have a sign and a picket. I didn't go to Michael's and get a whiteboard and draw stuff on it, you know. Not against protesting, but I just don't look. Now the male cheerleaders that these NFL teams have incorporated. Kudos to y'all. Now, why are they fully dressed? I don't
let them
know.
wear shorter shorts.
Come on, y'all. Fair equality, right?
Yeah, I think it's just kind of got overblown. I mean, Dylan blew up. He went from like nobody knew who she was, and then a year later, she's interviewing the president and, you know, getting sponsored by Nike.
Oh, wow.
So
good.
She's really done a lot for like visibility of trans people. But there's a few things that, like, it's still a little, she did a song on her web or on TikTok about that people need to get used to the bulge, where she was talking about that because she hasn't had bottom surgery, that she wears a tight dress and there's a little bulge there, and then people just need to get okay with that. Like, I don't know. I think it's a little weird to look, but I'm not that I'm looking, but it's like when anybody takes their pants off, everybody looks. You're not going to lie about that. But
well, I mean, you look at how, I mean, Kid Rock used to wear mink and boas.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And Travis Tritt, if you look at some of his
earlier
like pictures, he has a mullet. He has the frayed jean jacket. He's got tight jeans. He's like limp hand, which is the gay thing to do. Now, also too, to his defense, I mean, that was the 90s. They had denim on denim, tight pants, the phrase, I'm not calling him gay. I'm not using that derogatory. That's just the way he dressed. But nowadays people would say that is gay or that is queer and that is all this. And, you know, you have to look at Kid Rock, John Rich. They're like, what beers can we serve? They're playing to their crowd. They're playing to their hateful, fear-mongering crowd. They're homophobic. They're transphobic. They're racist crowds. Go to a Kid Rock concert, see how much diversity is there. And if that's his thing, you know what? That's his thing. I honestly think he's a lover of people. I think he just uses his voice and an AR, whatever, that just mold over children. He used that in a video in the same town that it happened, which I just thought was inappropriate. But, they're wanting to serve all these different beers. Well, look at the supporters of Pride. You have Cracker Barrel, you have Dollar General, which are in every red state, and a lot of red people go to those places. Those are country conservative places, but they support Pride. So y'all keep going there, support them. Guinness, Coors, Miller Lite, they all support Pride. Get over yourself. Worry about yourself. He who is not satisfied with a little is satisfied with nothing. Someone said that. I don't know where that comes in. Eclipius or something.
Oh. I mean, yes, they do support Pride, but I'd be interested to know like how much they support. Like, I think a lot of people jump on the bandwagon of Pride because it is a multi-billion-dollar thing. So it's not like, I don't know if Anheuser-Busch is really pushing legislation that's going to help the LGBT community. They are showing that they are supportive by doing things like that. But I'm not sure. I think it's a little early to be like, oh, all the people at Pride are, so supportive and they do all these wonderful things. They're there to make money.
We've talked about this, and you had a really great point about that last season when we talked about Pride parades.
Yeah.
Are you actually voting? Are you saying something with your dollar? Or are you there to collect the dollars, which is another great point. But I will say, in St. Louis, Anheuser-Busch, they do spend a lot of money, and they do support Pride and Pride parades. So what do they do outside of that? Weston doesn't know. Philip, do you know?
I don't know.
We can research that, but that is a really great question. Probably another episode.
Yeah. And you mentioned a word that has been coming up a lot lately. You mentioned the queer word.
Ooh, cringe-worthy queer.
That's a word it's interesting because I think depending on what year you were born, you may have a different view of it. For me, queer was always a negative.
Same.
Very negative. But I think it might be interesting. Wes and I wanted to talk about kind of the history of this word. Wes has been wanting to talk about this for a while, so it's funny because like I know people that define themselves as queer. Like when I hear somebody say I'm queer, I'm just like, oh, you poor thing. Like it still holds negativity to me. I don't know if that's the same for you when you hear it. Like I've never heard it used in a positive. Maybe
Until
my
recently.
brain doesn't process it as positive. If somebody says, "Oh, this queer guy's come to the party," I'm like, "Oh, really? Everything going to be okay? Should we?"
You have your AK-47,
Right? Like what?
Gerald?
What does that mean? So, anyway, let's talk about the exciting word queer.
Growing up, and it's still cringeworthy to me. And as our community started using it, I'm like, why? Right? And that's where words matter, because as a child, I would hear, "Oh, that little queer bait," and I would be like, "Well, I can't come out because that's gay, right?" Yeah. But throwback, I was really close with 3 of my great grandmothers, and one of them, my great grandmother Harmony, Mammer's mom. We were driving one day. She's like, "Well, that's a queer color for a car." And I'm like, and this would have been early 2000s, call it 2005, 2006. And I'm like, "Grandma," she's like, "Well, that's what that word means, is strange and odd."
Yeah.
She's like, "Nowadays it's not. The world's changing and going to hell." Right. So, but and that word has changed.
Yeah.
Quite a bit in our history. So we think a generation we grew up in, we have to realize, words are powerful. Words have transformed over time. And I think we get caught in this little bubble of, well, we know everything. We're an American, right? Like in this last couple hundred years. No, it transforms way before that. The first recorded word or use of the word written down is 1500 to 1510 in Scotland as strange or eccentric or not quite right.
I wonder when it starts showing up, like, how do you let everybody else know what it means? Like, if you're the first one to use it, you say queer. Like, how do you do you tell the neighbors? Like, I'm going to start using the word queer, and it means eccentric or Like
strange or odd.
Yeah. So maybe they've used it for a while, but I guess this is the first written.
Yeah. And wouldn't you, I've always thought of this, even when I was in high school, I'm like, God, because English was like, I mean, we have a lot of words, there, and there, two, and two. I mean, I'm like, who came up with all this? I wish I lived a long time ago so I could have made it all up. Can you imagine me? Because I know like 8 words.
It'd be like, good kid, good kid.
Good kid. What does good kid mean?
It's interesting. So after 1500, there was an interesting story. I'm sure everybody has heard of Oscar Wilde. He's a very famous Irish poet and celebrity. No, not movies.
What? That's Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Wasn't he in that chocolate movie? I thought that's what you were talking about.
No, Oscar Wilde is an Irish poet.
Close.
He's known for the importance of being earnest. The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I did not read, but I definitely read Importance of Being Earnest. Anyway, so he's
never heard of it.
Very kind of flamboyant gay guy. He's living in England at the time, and he's dating, his boyfriend is the son of the Marquess of Queensberry. Right,
yeah,
so that's a big deal. Do you know what? Do you know what a Marquess is? I had to look this up.
No, I know a Marquise.
Yeah, so a Marquess. I looked this up. It's in Duke or in British royalty. It's above an earl and below a duke. Still have no idea.
Sussex is.
Yeah, so he's above an earl.
One.
So anyway, the Marquess, and that's the correct pronunciation because I looked it up. I was going to call it Marquise, but the Marquess of Queensberry. So his son's dating Oscar Wilde. And Oscar Wilde gets brought up on charges of indecency because he's gay. And in the trial, the Marquess of Queensberry, the father, reads a letter, and in the letter describes Oscar as a queer. And from that point on, they noticed that it started showing up in American newspapers and all that because it was related to a celebrity being Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
So you can credit Oscar Wilde's queerness for the negativity of that word. And then it kind of pushed through many generations.
I was looking up some different articles. The LA Times in 1914 described a nightclub where, quote unquote, queer people have a good time. So that was 1894 and then 1914. So you're right. It's like a pop culture.
Yeah. But and that LA article sounds positive, right? It's just like, to me, it sounds like it's just a gay bar.
And that's
like
kind of
where people have a good time.
Right. So strange or odd people have a good time. I don't. Well, but here's my thing. I'm not strange or odd.
Yeah, but we don't know the intent of that. Like the person that wrote that, maybe they were so progressive and they were like, "No, I'm just using it as an umbrella term for gay people."
But then I'm reading other things where it was not associated with homosexuality at all until the 30s or 40s. So I think it took time to come on, and then it's like, then this is the post World War II, masculinity and coming back from a war. Funny fact, I think that plays into this a little bit. When I was going through my fraternity, I was worried about hazing. So I started looking hazing and stuff up. And thank God Sigma Chi WIU, or Sigma Chi at Western Illinois University did not haze, or I wouldn't have gone through it. Hazing was not part of our ritual. It's not part of any fraternity's ritual. When did all that start? After World War II. Isn't that interesting? So I think all this masculinized masculinity, toxic masculinity, I know we talked about that. Yeah. That was really come about in the 80s, but I think it takes generations to kind of get infiltrated. Because for our generation, when I hear queer, to me, I will not think that's positive. So looking at this 40-year span right here in our notes, that's when all this started coming up, and queer was not a bad thing, and then it turned into a bad thing. But even in our community, there's been times where we use that word and it wasn't negative, but then a straight crowd, for lack of a better term, took it to start calling us queers in a derogatory way.
Yeah. And I think, now it's been completely transformed into this umbrella term for current culture. Like it is what someone who may not know how they identify yet describes themselves. Like if you're a cis male and you think you're gay, but you also have other feelings, like you might call yourself queer because you don't fit under the gay umbrella or the lesbian umbrella or the trans umbrella.
Right.
But it still throws me off when I hear somebody identify as queer, and it's never an older person. I've never seen someone my age, late 40s, saying they're queer. It's usually a younger generation. So I just got to get used to hearing the word and not being like, oh, Did you?
Well, and how much is a part of that of our community trying to take power back over this, I'm going to say straight community or people that use it harmful against us, is that we are going to use that so you don't have that power.
Sure.
Right?
I think that's definitely a part of it. Because if you just keep calling yourself queer, then
it's not going to hurt. Somebody calling you that is not going to hurt you that.
Yeah.
Do you know what queer means in the UK?
Odd, strange.
No, someone in financial trouble.
Then I'm queer.
You are the biggest queer.
I'm queer as all get out.
But no, I do that. And I was living in Austin. I was there 08 to 14. And I remember during Pride, and I was on the LGBT Chamber of Commerce, I always associated lesbians saying the word queer. I didn't hear a lot of men say that word, whether effeminate or masculine gay men. I just heard, and then when I was looking this up, I'm like, strange and odd. Maybe they want to identify as strange and odd. Yeah. Maybe I don't identify as that. And that's not a bad thing. You know, a lot of them had pink hair, shaved, nose rings, earrings, all this different stuff. And that was their identity. And they were very great people. And I liked them, but they're like, yeah, I'm queer. And I'm like, ooh, you know, and that was a decade and a half ago.
I was on Tinder, an hour ago. No, recently, and somebody put in their descriptor gay/queer, and I was like, what is that? What's different about you're a gay man, but you're also queer, or what does that mean? Do you have any? I mean, I still swiped on him, but
you wanted to start that. Did you invite him on the show?
Yeah, it's like immediately.
What are you doing in an hour?
Right, come on in
over here.
So I don't know if so for me, I was trying to think of a time that I would use the word queer, and I can't really think of one other than using it after someone else has already called themselves queer. Like I wouldn't look over and be like, I think it's the queer one over there. Like that's a big assumption. That's assuming they're gay or trans or just be like that person. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'm not going to use it, but I'm also older.
Yeah, and it's how we were raised. I mean, to us, it was very hurtful.
Yeah.
So in our community, maybe we use it. Let's say maybe we use it as part of the LGBTQIA plus community to take the power away from people outside the community that use it as hurtful. Is that where, it's like the black community using the N word. I don't feel any white person should ever say that word. I don't think anybody outside of our community should say the queer word. And that's, every situation's different.
The only reason I would, and I don't mean argue, but discuss it with you is if a queer person uses that, then a straight person can feel free to use the word queer.
But should white people say the N word?
It's not the same thing. It's not steeped in
racist
slavery.
Yeah,
huge. It's a word that is kind of changed, and there's plenty of words that have changed over time, and their meaning and how they were defined. But if a person says, "Hey, I'm queer," then a straight person can be like, "Hey, this is my queer friend," because you've given them permission. It's like the pronouns thing. Mm-hmm. If you want to use a certain pronoun, I'm going to try to remember it.
By the way, I saw a pronoun you can put them on LinkedIn now, right? And you can choose, and you can put them on dating profiles and whatnot. And I saw one that said, it's like he, him, she, her, they, them. I saw one that was he, they.
He.
Don't be tripping me up, y'all.
He, they.
It's not about me, but I'm like, I'm just not that smart to remember that. So the straight people that don't get it, hey, we just want y'all to know that we're not struggling.
How would I know when to use
help.
they?
I don't know. He's coming and they are bringing this.
You know how confusing that could be?
I did not.
He's coming to the party and they're bringing ketchup. Like, how much ketchup are they bringing?
He, him. And I'm not one to be like, you have to do this. They can do whatever the hell they want. You said it very eloquently before. I may make a mistake, but I'm going to try.
I'm definitely going to make
and one. That's a part of that. But speaking of words changing, and two, let's look at generationally. Men always wore pink and women wore blue.
What do you mean?
That's flipped.
In the past.
Before World War I, pink was a masculine color. And then if they were look at that aubergine.
Speaking of masculine.
Was that pink?
It's more of a rose.
Ooh, there you go.
Beautiful rose color.
But that's funny how in our society years ago, not even 100 years, well, right about 100 years ago.
So pink was a big...
Pink was predominantly masculine. Yeah. But we don't know it because they were like black and white photos and none of us were alive.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
That's true. Because I thought everyone just wore blacks and grays and... whites and creams.
And then we were,
No color back then.
Boy, and I'm like, man, these colors are great. Being a colorblind guy, I'm like, look at all that. These are wonderful.
Well, another one, the word guy, right? When we hear the word guy, I immediately think, Wes, it's just a guy.
You want that?
What? Oh, Wes was attempting to show his bicep.
Oh, yeah, for you YouTube watchers.
So the word guy was first used to describe a man that was poorly dressed, shabby, or low class. I mean,
so still,
yeah. So it could be, which is interesting. So it got its start from this guy named Guy Fawkes, who was arrested in a plot to blow up the King of England, and they caught him. He was publicly hanged, and the word became a derogatory term for many years. So you'd be like, "Look at that guy," and that was super negative. That meant they didn't have money. Yeah. So now it's changed and it's just a way to describe someone's, I guess, gender. That's just a guy. He's a guy.
Yeah, now we've put that meaning on it, and that's all we know, right? Yeah. The word girl was originally used to describe a young person of either sex.
So it'd be like, are you having a girl or a girl?
Well, we would think that now. We think that's queer, right? We think that's strange really or odd. Queer.
Well, that's interesting. So girl was used to be, you could be a boy or a girl.
Young person of either sex. So again,
six girls, 2 boys and 2 girls.
Well, remember when Megan was on?
Oh,
Megan Goebel was on talking about it's not a gender reveal party. It's a sex reveal party, right? Yep. So this, and again, I don't know how many years ago, but yeah, girl was originally used to describe a young person or child of either sex. And that's odd to us now because we know boy or girl as a binary type of thing. And then the binary, non-binary, all that stuff, that's a big to-do now too.
The word bohemian, which I'm not use that a ton. Know. Yeah, but that's used now to describe like an artist, an artistic person who lives, that doesn't have to live with a bunch of other artistic people.
Like a cave?
No, they can live in a house, but
I'm like cave. This meat eater, like stabbing a little mammoth.
Look at that bohemian. So the word bohemian was first used in medieval times as an insult to describe people who Europeans thought were wandering vagrants. But there was a French play that was put out, and it romanticized the word, and from that point on, it was positive. So again, started off as a negative connotation. You'd be like, look at those bohemians over there, bunch of vagrants. And now it's like, oh, this friend of mine, she's so creative. She's bohemian. So it's like, you just got to keep up with the change.
This may come as a shock, but I don't even know what that word means today.
Well, I just told you.
Like I've never thought it was a positive word.
I wouldn't use it.
Like maybe I didn't know it was neutral.
I use it to describe like the look of if you go to a restaurant and it's got this certain vibe, but it's hard to describe. I'm like, it's got this bohemian feel.
Well, when you said medieval times, I thought of the restaurant where they're on horses and they fight each other. That's
look at all the bohemians on horses.
And doesn't Dolly Parton have one? I'm like, oh, look at that bohemian.
Yeah, Dolly Parton is bohemian.
Got 2 bohemians.
She's got
the word. It's a boob joke.
Yeah.
The word naughty comes from describing people who have not. Not means nothing.
Look at that naughty.
Yeah, he's naughty.
He's naughty.
He's got nothing. This naughty girl.
So is that financial?
Nothing.
Like if
he's
they're
got
poor.
Not. Yeah, he doesn't have a house. He doesn't have a car. Doesn't have whatever.
And now it's like you quit being naughty.
Right. Some people
quit
are
being
queer
poor
and naughty. I don't know. Let's just put all these words together in a sentence.
I'm gonna add that to my Tinder profile. I'm queer and naughty.
They.
Right. And the word nice. I didn't know this.
Oh, nice is such a great, genuine word.
Comes from the Latin word nicius, meaning ignorant.
Yeah. God, I'm nice.
From the 1300s to approximately the 1600s, it meant foolish and silly as well as ignorant. It wasn't until the 1700s that it started meaning pleasant. So, but at what point, like if your neighbor is using it differently, you're just like, wait a minute, you said nice. Did you mean nicious or
Philip's so nice, and then you go on a rant.
Are you serious?
There is what is that word? It's the study of words, like wimphonology or something.
Okay.
My friend Wyatt does it, and she does this Wednesdays with Wyatt.
Okay.
And maybe I'll share it on a social or something. Maybe we should Zoom her in. She's the one that married singer, songwriter, poet Mary Lambert. Remember I went to that wedding in May?
Yes, that's right.
she's a professor. She's brilliant. Maybe we have her on to talk about some of these words.
Yeah.
She is, I mean, so smart when it comes to words. And I'm trying to think. I'm
she
not
is so smart when it comes to words.
To talking. Well, she is I mean, God, she's a poet. She is she is like
entomologist.
What did I call it? Worthomology?
Wordamologist.
Entomologist.
I gotta look. Yeah, it's something like that.
So Wyatt, if you are listening, probably not, we are going to send you a DM to come on the show because we need to know. And I think she identifies as queer.
Oh, strange or quirky.
Their wedding was freaking awesome. Remember that charcuterie board I shared? It was phenomenal. It was so hot.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, back to the word queer. I just, I think it goes back to, like I said, when you were born. And I think the older population's still going to have a hard time using it. But if you had a child and they were like, Mom, Dad, I think I'm queer. Like, okay.
Well, and that throws
dig
our
into
generation.
That. I got to dig into that a little more because that doesn't mean anything to me. That just means you're not straight.
Yeah,
right?
and that's our generation having these kids who are now 18, 19, 20, 25, whatever. And saying that will be taken aback.
Yeah.
Like, whoa, what, some people are more progressive than others.
Yeah.
Sit down and it's just about loving your children and talking to them and counseling and therapy and working through that, right? Yeah. Because we take queer that as a negative word. But the activist group, I forgot I looked this up. There's an activist group called ACT UP.
Oh.
They changed their name to Queer Nation to show that our community was taking back this word that wasn't used against us. So what we were talking about earlier, it's like, okay, we are taking this word back as a community.
Yeah, I don't see it used a ton in like, I don't know. I don't see it other than like dating profiles or the way people identify. You don't ever see it used any other way now. It's not like no one says that car's queer, like your great grandmother.
Yeah.
Look at that queer car.
Webster, the dictionary means strange or odd. And I come back, I'm a very simple person. I don't like anything too complex. So to me, that will always mean strange or odd. That's a queer color for a house. I'm still not going to say that because I wasn't raised. I was raised that was a bad word. Yeah. You didn't say it. And you couldn't be it.
Yeah. Woo. But now you can.
Little queer bait. That's what I heard a lot growing up.
I feel like
not towards me, but it's like if you saw someone on TV and they were flamboyant, look at that queer bait.
Yeah.
Which
I never got that. I always got fag.
I mean,
and I used to use fag. I remember getting reprimanded in DC. I was at a bar and a friend of mine, I would refer to myself as fag, probably trying to be funny or make a statement or something. Mm-hmm. And he pulled me to the side and he said, I do not like the use of that word. I think it's very offensive and very harmful, and I don't think you should use it to describe yourself or anyone else. And every single time I hear it, I think of Sean. And he made an impact because it did change the way that I approached that word because I was kind of using it very frivolously and not realizing that holds a lot of hurt for a lot of people, just like queer might for a lot of people, hearing the word queer. So,
one thing that made an impact on you, and it's one of those things you'll never forget, right? When you hear that, it's a trigger, right? Also in our languages too, smoking a fag. What does that mean to you?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that might be different in
sounds
Europe.
Like a good time.
In Europe, that's smoking a cigarette.
Smoking a fag.
But if you're smoking a fag on Church Street here in
going
Nashville,
to jail.
Don't do that in public.
No.
It's kind of like flipping a bitch. That's a U-turn in the UK. Is flipping a bitch.
I flipped a bitch once. Well, interesting.
So, I mean, I'm glad, we did some research on this, and it's kind of a hard topic to discuss. I mean, we have a lot of listeners who there's a huge spectrum from religious to gay to anti-gay to whatever. Maybe not anti-gay. I don't know why I said that. We want anti-gay people to come on because we want to talk to y'all.
These people?
Yeah,
all
Debbie.
The anti-gays.
Debbie. She writes in all the time.
No, we do have a good mix of people, and I think it's good for people to know like where this word comes from, and if they use it and somebody gets offended, it's probably because they were raised feeling a certain way about it.
Right. And not everybody in our community. Let's look at that. Not everybody in our community may agree with that word. Yeah. And we want y'all to know that and not to lump us all together. And that goes with any community that you can stereotype. I still have a problem with the word. Am I going to do anything about it? Do I lose sleep at night? No. But as I sleep, great. 8:30 comes around and Weston's out. Remember I was yawning at brunch that one day?
You yawn, a lot at brunch.
Like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. But I sleep great at night. And so, yeah, I just say I've wanted to talk about this word for a long time. And I'm like, Philip, I don't know where to start.
Well,
because to me, it's such a negative word. And we did it. Just won a Grammy.
I'd love to hear people's feedback. If you've got a story or, a description of how this word affects you, I think it's interesting. We'll put you in the mailbag episode coming up soon.
Yes. Send us a voice memo, too. Ooh, yeah. And you can do that.
Or a video.
A video would be great. We can put you on air here and on air. Because we're
live.
It's going through the air.
Yeah.
Like if you're listening in the car, it comes through the air to your car. That's where that comes from. Like WSM 650 AM. But okay, I was going to say something. Oh, remember on Two Bottles Deep Instagram, we posted to get ready. What, Philip? Because it goes through the air.
That's how radios work. It's in the air. That's all it is. It's in the air.
I did put a poll up, and the majority of people on Two Bottles Deep Instagram voted that queer, the question was, is queer a derogatory term? Most people said no, but those are our followers on Two Bottles Deep, which is pretty inclusive. The ones that said yes, it was derogatory were straight people being like, we would never call you queer. We stand with you. So it was a very positive interaction, but that just kind of shows the majority of our followers on Instagram would say, hey, it's not. But if we did that on our personals, we come from very conservative areas, have very conservative friends, would they say it was a derogatory? I think the majority would say, yes, it's derogatory.
Yeah.
Contradictory to what our Two Bottles Deep page says.
For sure. Well, if you've got any questions or comments, you can email us at twobottlesdeep@gmail.com. Remember, we keep tacking on it, but we're on YouTube, and that's the reason our sound was a little crazy, but Trent has really helped us. We appreciate y'all being patient with us. We're going to get this back to our crisp and clear sound.
It's crisp and clear.
I think this is better.
This is definitely our sound was queer.
Yeah, it was a queer sound. And you're queer, by the way. You're so queer.
Girl. No, what was the poor word?
Naughty?
No, naughty means you have nothing. Oh, yeah, naughty. Well, we are also still
We're naughty and queer.
Other than that award. Okay, so we were talking about the award we got for Christmas, and that, well, it's not an award, but it's hanging, if you're watching on YouTube, it's literally hanging behind Philip. And we really thank Stuart and Trent for that. Yeah. Being streamed all over. Oh, look at this. The world.
Yeah.
And we didn't even plan
countries.
that. We didn't even plan that. He just has a globe in the studio. I love it.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you listening. Wes, I hope your week is better. I hope the gunman,
no guns.
I hope the gunman gets whatever is coming to him.
We'll see what happens. Yeah. I might not be here this week.
But for work,
week.
You mean? Or?
Yeah. Just go live in a van down by the river.
Got it.
But Philip, you are nice in the today's world,
and you're queer in today's world.
All right. Love you, buddy.
Right, love you, babe.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to another great episode of Two Bottles Deep.
Don't forget to give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast.
And while you're at it, write us a fabulous review.
Please reach out to us on our email, twobottlesdeep@gmail.com.
There is plenty of love in this world. Be a part of it.